Let me ask you something. Have you ever said, "Life is unfair. I was born in the wrong place. I didn't get the opportunities others got. I would succeed if the world were different"? If you've ever thought that, you are not alone. Millions of people walk through life believing the world is against them. They believe their past, their country, their family, their economy, or their circumstances are holding them back. But Jim Rohn, one of the greatest personal development philosophers of all time, said something that changes everything. If you don't like how things are, change yourself, not the world. And today, this single idea might change your entire life. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The world does not care about your excuses. It does not care about where you were born. It does not care how unfair your childhood was. It does not care how hard your life has been. The world only responds to value. And Jim Rohn said it best. The marketplace is cruel, but it is fair. It rewards value. You don't get paid based on your needs. You don't get rewarded based on your struggles. You get rewarded based on how useful you become. So if life is hard, if money is tight, if doors are not opening, the uncomfortable question is not, what's wrong with the world? The real question is, who am I becoming? Blaming the world feels good, but it makes you weak. When you say, it's the government's fault, it's the economy's fault, it's my family's fault, it's my boss's fault, you are saying something dangerous. My life is not in my control. And the moment you believe that, you lose all power. Jim Rohn said, when you blame others, you give up your power to change. Because if the world is the problem, then you are helpless. But if you are the problem, then you are also the solution. The most powerful words in the English language are not, "I am lucky." They are, "I am responsible." When you take responsibility, everything changes. You stop saying, "This is happening to me," and you start saying, "This is happening because of me." And that is not a curse. That is freedom. Because if your results come from you, then your future also comes from you. Jim Rohn said, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. And direction is everything. Most people think life is about luck, but Jim Rohn taught that life is about becoming. You don't get rich by chasing money. You get rich by becoming valuable. You don't attract better opportunities by complaining. You attract them by growing. You don't build a great life by wishing. You build it by discipline. Jim Rohn said, success is something you attract by the person you become. So if you want more money, become more skilled. If you want more respect, become more disciplined. If you want more freedom, become more valuable. When you improve yourself, something magical happens. Your thinking changes, your habits change, your standards change, your income changes, your relationships change, and eventually, your life changes. Not because the world became kinder, but because you became stronger. The same world that crushes the weak rewards the prepared. So today, you must decide, will you keep blaming the world, or will you start building yourself? Will you stay a victim of circumstances, or become the creator of your future? Because the moment you stop blaming and start improving, everything begins to move in your favor. Jim Rohn left us with this truth. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. So don't ask for a better world. Become a better person. And the world will respond.
Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the world to change. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for the government to fix things. They wait for their boss to notice them. They wait for life to become easier. But Jim Rohn said something that cuts through all of that. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That one sentence carries a brutal truth, because wishing life were easier makes you weak, but becoming better makes you powerful. The world is not designed to be fair. It is not designed to be kind. It is designed to respond. And it only responds to one thing: who you are becoming. Most people say things like, life is hard, society is unfair, opportunities are not equal, I was born in the wrong place, I didn't get the right chances. But Jim Rohn would say, the world does not owe you anything. The world doesn't care if you are tired. It doesn't care if you are frustrated. It doesn't care if you feel unlucky. It only cares about what you bring to the table. If you bring excuses, you get nothing. If you bring effort, you get experience. If you bring value, you get reward. That is the real law of life. Jim Rohn taught that success is not something you chase. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That means if your life isn't working, it's not because the world is broken. It's because you are still under construction. And that's not an insult. That's an opportunity. Because it means you can change everything, not by fixing the world, but by fixing yourself. Think about this. Two people can live in the same country, same economy, same government, same society. One becomes wealthy, one stays broke. Why? Not because the world treated them differently, but because they treated themselves differently. One reads, one watches TV. One trains their mind, one scrolls social media. One invests in skills, one complains. The world rewards the first, the world ignores the second. Jim Rohn said, you don't get paid for time, you get paid for value. That means your future is not controlled by your past, it is controlled by your personal development. If you are poor today, it's not because you are unlucky, it's because your current skills, habits, and mindset are not yet worth more in the marketplace. But the moment you improve yourself, the moment you become more skilled, more disciplined, more focused, your value rises. And when your value rises, so does your income, your opportunities, and your freedom. The biggest lie society teaches is this: if only the system were better, I would succeed. Jim Rohn would say, no, if you were better, you would succeed. Because successful people don't wait for perfect conditions. They become powerful enough to win in imperfect conditions. They adapt, they learn, they grow, they sharpen their skills, and the world eventually has no choice but to reward them. The world doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you can do. It doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about your execution. It doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about your discipline. That is why Jim Rohn focused so much on self-development, because the fastest way to change your life is not to change your environment, it's to change yourself. And here's the most powerful part. When you stop blaming the world, you take back control. When you stop complaining, you start building. When you stop waiting, you start winning. The moment you say, my life is my responsibility, you step into your power. Jim Rohn didn't teach people to fight the world. He taught people to outgrow it, to become so skilled, so disciplined, so valuable that no matter where they were born, no matter what obstacles they faced, they would rise. And that philosophy can change your life starting today. Most people don't realize it, But the words they repeat every day are quietly destroying their future. I can't because of the economy. I didn't have rich parents. My country has no opportunities. My boss is unfair. Life is against me. These words may sound harmless, but Jim Rohn warned us. When you blame others, you give up your power to change. And when you give up your power, you give up your future. Blaming feels good in the moment. It protects your ego. It saves you from feeling guilty. It makes you feel like a victim instead of a failure. But that comfort comes with a deadly price. You stop growing. Because if everything is someone else's fault, there is no reason for you to improve. And that is how people stay stuck for 10, 20, 30 years. Let me tell you something harsh but true. The world does not reward victims. It rewards problem solvers. It doesn't matter how unfair life has been to you. What matters is how useful you become. And every time you say, "It's not my fault," you are telling your mind, "I am powerless." And a powerless person never wins. Jim Rohn said something very powerful. You cannot change the winds, but you can adjust the sails. That means you cannot control the economy, your past, where you were born, what others do. But you can always control your attitude, your discipline, your skills, your effort. Blaming the wind will never move your ship. Only adjusting your sails will. When you blame the government, you say, "They control my future." When you blame your family, you say, "They decide my limits." When you blame society, you say, "I am trapped." But the moment you say, "My life is my responsibility," everything changes. Because now you are no longer waiting to be saved. You are becoming strong enough to win. Blaming is easy. Anyone can complain. But improvement is hard, and that is why most people avoid it. It's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. But Jim Rohn said, the major key to your better future is you, not your boss, not the economy, not your parents, you. Here's the truth. Two people can be born in the same poor neighborhood. One becomes successful, one stays broke. Same streets, same schools, same conditions. The difference? One blamed the world, the other built himself. One waited, the other worked. One complained, the other learned. And the world rewarded the one who grew. The moment you stop blaming, you start seeing opportunities. When you stop saying, "This is unfair," you start asking, "How can I win anyway?" That is the mindset of champions. They don't need perfect conditions. They become powerful enough to win in imperfect ones. Jim Rohn taught that life is like a mirror. It doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. If you are lazy, life gives you struggle. If you are disciplined, life gives you progress. If you are valuable, life gives you rewards. So if you don't like what you see in the mirror, don't blame the mirror. Change yourself. Blaming keeps you weak because it trains your mind to wait. Improving yourself makes you strong because it trains your mind to act, and action is where power lives. So from today, stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" Start saying, "What must I become to rise above this?" That one question will change your life, because winners don't wait for the world to change. They outgrow it.
Most people never fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they give their power away. Every time someone says, "It's not my fault," something dangerous happens inside their mind. They quietly say, "I am not in control of my life." And the moment you believe that, you become weak. Jim Rohn warned us, when you blame others, you give up your power to change. Because if something is not your fault, then it is not your responsibility. And if it is not your responsibility, you will never fix it. Blaming feels good in the moment. It protects your ego. It keeps you from feeling embarrassed. It makes you feel innocent. But it also makes you powerless.
Because as long as the world is the problem, you have no reason to improve. And people who don't improve stay exactly where they are. When you blame the government, you say, they control my future. When you blame your family, you say, they decide my limits. When you blame the economy, you say, I am trapped. And the mind believes whatever you tell it. So if you tell it, I am trapped, it will stop trying to escape. But successful people think differently. They say, if my life is not working, I must become better. Not louder, not angrier, not more frustrated, better. Better in skills, better in discipline, better in mindset, better in effort. That is how power is built. Jim Rohn said, you cannot change the winds, but you can adjust the sails. You cannot control where you were born, how rich your parents were, what the economy does, what other people think. But you can always control what you learn, how hard you work, how disciplined you are, how strong your mindset becomes. Blaming the wind never moves the ship. Adjusting the sails does. Weak people focus on what they can't control. Strong people focus on what they can. Weak people ask, why is this happening to me? Strong people ask, what can I do about it? And that difference creates completely different lives. Two people can be born in the same city, same country, same conditions. One becomes successful, the other stays stuck. Not because the world treated them differently, but because one blamed and one built. One complained, the other improved. One waited, the other worked. And the world rewarded the one who grew. Jim Rohn said, the major key to your better future is you. Not the government, not your boss, not your past, you. The moment you accept that, you stop being a victim and start becoming a leader. Blaming is easy, anyone can complain, but growth is hard, and that's why it changes everything. Because once you stop blaming, you start seeing opportunity everywhere. Once you stop complaining, you start building. Once you stop waiting, you start winning. So the next time life feels unfair, don't ask, who should I blame? Ask instead, who must I become? That one question turns weakness into power and frustration into progress. And that is how you win.
Most people believe the way to change their life is to change their job. They think, if I get a better job, my life will improve. If I make more money, everything will be fixed. If I find the right opportunity, I'll finally be happy. But Jim Rohn said something that changed millions of lives. Work harder on yourself than on your job. That sentence is not motivational. It is strategic. Because if you become better, your job must get better. If you become more valuable, your income must rise. If you become stronger, your circumstances must follow. Most people spend their entire life working on their job. They wake up early, they go to work, they come home tired, they repeat. But they never work on the person who is doing the job. They train their employer's business, but not their own mind. They build someone else's dream, but not their own future. And Jim Rohn warned us, if you don't improve yourself, you will always be limited by who you are. Self-development is not about feeling good. It's about becoming dangerously capable. When you develop yourself, you think better, decide faster, learn quicker, earn more, and attract better people. And that changes everything. The same world that ignores weak people rewards strong ones. Jim Rohn taught that money is not something you chase. Money is something that comes to you when you become valuable. He said, you don't get paid for time, you get paid for value. If you are not earning enough, it's not because the world is unfair. It's because you have not yet developed enough value. But the good news is this: value is not fixed.
Value is built, and you build it by improving yourself. When you read books, you upgrade your thinking. When you learn skills, you upgrade your income. When you train your emotions, you upgrade your relationships. When you build discipline, you upgrade your future. Everything changes when you change. Most people want success, but they don't want to become the kind of person who deserves it. They want the rewards without the growth. But life doesn't work that way. Jim Rohn said, "Success is something you attract by the person you become." That means your future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for your evolution. Think about this. If you take a broke person and give them $1 million, most of the time they lose it. Why? Because they didn't become a millionaire. They only touched the money. But if you take a person and turn them into a millionaire in their mind, they will always find a way to create wealth, because who you become is more important than what you have. Self-development is the real power, because it cannot be taken away. Money can be lost, jobs can disappear, businesses can fail, but skills, mindset, and discipline stay with you forever. And wherever you go, you bring your power with you. Jim Rohn said, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune." School teaches you how to survive. Self-development teaches you how to win. Reading, learning, training, thinking, that is how you separate yourself from the crowd. When you improve yourself, you stop begging for opportunity. Opportunity starts looking for you. When you become valuable, people want you. Companies need you. Markets reward you. Not because you asked, but because you earned it. So don't wait for life to get easier. Become better. Don't wait for opportunity. Become valuable. Don't ask for a better future. Build yourself into someone who creates one. Because self-development is not optional. It is the real power.
If you don't like the life you're living today, don't blame the world. Don't blame your past. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame the economy. Improve yourself. Because the moment you start changing who you are, everything around you begins to change. You don't need to do something big today. You just need to do something better. Read for 10 minutes. Learn one new skill. Stop saying, "I can't," and start saying, "I'm learning." That is how confidence is built. That is how winners are created. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So look around you. Are the people in your life helping you grow or keeping you comfortable? Are they building your future or keeping you in the past? Because if you want to become a better person, you must surround yourself with better thinking. And that's why this channel exists. This is not a place for excuses. This is not a place for complaining. This is a place for people who want to become stronger, smarter, and more disciplined. So if you're ready to stop blaming the world and start building yourself, subscribe, because this is where you come to become the next version of you.